So in a previous chapter, we helped you learn a little bit about how to start learning from your audience, where they are, how they like to be spoken to. But now you actually have to put this information into practice. And that practice is something that we like to call message testing. Message testing starts with your tone. So you're figuring out, what are you saying to these people that you've figured out like what you're doing? The landscape has changed such that consumers are no longer just consumers, they're participants. And engagement becomes way more important than messaging. And that means to go back and look at each one of your tweets or each one of your Facebook posts and see what kind of engagement happened. Did people like it? Did people respond? Did they retweet it? Did it start a conversation? This is how you start to understand which parts of your storytelling are really compelling to people and which ones are getting no traction whatsoever and might need to fall away. Now, a couple of important things. Number one, that might be about time of day. But number two, it might be because you're not paying attention and you're not fostering the conversation. So if people start to engage with the way that you're posting on social media, make sure to engage back. And not just during your crowdfunding campaign or during your audience building phase. This is a career-long conversation with your audience. It's really clear if you look back at the interview that we did, we didn't ask people their relationship status or how they were feeling about certain things. We care about them because we work with them. But as far as audience members, that stuff isn't interesting to us. We learned some things about where they hang out on social media and how they like to be spoken to. Now let's be clear, when you're using social media as a tool to bring people from the ether into the center, it means probably approaching it a little bit differently than how you might use social media in your personal life. Think about the filmmakers you really love. Maybe you're a Tarantino fan or a Jill Soloway fan. Jill Soloway, at a speech she gave at AFI, said, actually one of the things that writers and filmmakers are selling is their tone. It's not that Jill Soloway only makes movies and TV shows about one thing, or Tarantino only makes movies about one thing. They just tell a story in a way that's really compelling to me, and that's why I'm a fan. So the cool thing about starting to talk about social media and interacting with your fans is it's a really quick and easy way to start honing your tone as a storyteller. What is social media? It's actually just a series of authoring tools and storytelling platforms. And in fact, your crowdfunding page will be yet another storytelling tool that allows people to access what it will take to make your movie, all the different ways they can interact with you. So it's really important to spend some time really honing your storytelling craft and your tone with your audience. Your tone is simply the intersection between who you are and who you want to reach. And so this space in the middle, this is your tone, which is, this is all of me that I don't give to the world, and this is all of the world that doesn't pertain to you and what you're doing. What's really important to understand is that social media is going to start to become a professional tool more than a personal tool. And if you're going to use it professionally, it means not only posting things that are trying to find the intersection of who you are and who you want to reach, but going back and checking to see how they did. You can start pretty simply, whether that's sending out an email to people, figuring out your log line or what poster you want to use, and then moving on to your social media platforms. How are you speaking to people? And then really paying attention to what gets shared, what gets liked, and then creating more posts like that. Here's an idea. Send an email out to a whole bunch of people that you know who are not in the film business. Just saying, hey, I'm starting to work on this film. I'm gathering some information. Can I do an interview with you? And maybe 5 or 10 of them respond. And they give you all that information from those beautiful questions that we asked Ryan and Nicole in a previous chapter. And that's where you start understanding which social media platforms you're focusing on and which messages you're starting to tell. Years ago, when we started Seed&Spark, the social media gurus were saying that social media needed to be a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 posts about other people for every 1 post about yourself. And then a year and a half ago, it was 5-to-1. And most recently, I heard 9-to-1. 9-to-1. That sounds crazy, except if you think about how you're already using social media, which is probably mostly to share funny cat videos and articles that are interesting to you, to rage about politics. You're actually kind of already doing the 9-to-1 ratio. But 9-to-1 ratio really refers to being a hub of interesting information in and around the world that inspires you as a filmmaker. I did not say in and around the world of the single film you're making, specifically because my guess is you're working on more than one project. There are lots of different things that are inspiring you artistically. And then as you start to do specific research on a specific film, you can get a little more tailored. So for instance, if you have a Facebook page for your film, what do you fill that with? And certainly while you're running a campaign, it cannot be all about the campaign. You can't have a social media voice that is simply asking for things and begging people for things. People will stop listening to you. A great example, we had a short film by a filmmaker named Vivian, who the film was called Seclusion, and it's about a one-way trip to Mars with a female astronaut. So Vivian decided to make her page for Seclusion a hub about space travel. So the history of NASA, women in space travel, and anything that had to do with that world. So then her film became one piece and a very obvious piece of a world that she was already creating. So I found out about water on Mars because she posted that link as like another cool thing to think about. So her outreach extended after her crowdfunding campaign, after the film had been finished, and she's still a hub of interesting information. So I'm still interacting with the film Seclusion long after it's already been made. And the nice thing to remember is that you have to do that work anyway. Vivian was researching the history of NASA, space travel, women in the industry, and so she just took that research and made it public. And that is something that filled up her social media outreach and also really gathered an audience around a very specific kind of film. So we're gonna give you a few pro tips in building out your social media voice. And the first and most important, particularly as it pertains to crowdfunding, but also just like life in general. Don't plead. Please, 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 please don't plead and beg. Please. Like that's the only time I'm gonna do it, but I really mean it. Please don't do it. So when we say don't plead, offer, how many times have you seen this Facebook post? I'm making this film and we're totally broke and it's horrible and I'm really scared and we really need you and we're gonna die if you don't help us. Or it'll go something like, we have 3 more days and if you don't give us all the money, we won't get any of the money, please help. And it's all capital letters and they're shouting at you. How different is it if you say, join me on this incredible journey and together we will make something fantastic. You be the rocket and I'll be the fuel and together we will go to Mars. Honestly, if you take nothing else away, we would do the world a service if you just understood how important it is never to ask, but to offer something that the audience can contribute to, and together you make something magnificent. Another pro tip is altruism. And this is where you're a filmmaker. You have lots of people in your world that are also doing really cool, amazing stuff. So help them. Use your social media, because you gotta fill it with something, to help other people. We had 2 films that were fundraising at the same time on Seed&Spark. The filmmakers did not know each other. We had Nia on Vacation happening in New York and In Honor of Film happening in Los Angeles. And Nia on Vacation decided to take a little bit of her time, one tiny tweet, and she tweeted out so much #independent film to support on @Seed&Spark. In Honor of Film is almost at their goal, make it happen here, and then the URL for that campaign. Here's what's important, just by note. Nia on Vacation had just launched her campaign. In Honor of Film was in the last week of their campaign. And because this woman, who didn't know this other woman filmmaker, was just supportive, when In Honor of Film hit their goal and concluded their campaign, what do you think they did for the next 3 weeks? Well, they came back and supported Nia on Vacation. Nia on Vacation was sort of, eat, pray, love, set on a Greek island. In Honor of Film was a film about an honor killing. But what's really cool is that these women really believed in what we like to call the culture of plenty. There's plenty of audience out there. $25 for In Honor of Film does not mean there's not $25 for me. That in fact, together, we can grow a super interesting audience of watchers who are interested in a range of films made by women. The last pro tip that we would really like to cover is authenticity. When you are coming up with your tone and your messaging, it's really important that you figure out a voice that you feel good about, that you like yourself when you do it. Because if you are not a smiley face, exclamation pointy type of person, and that's the personality you try to cultivate online, you won't like yourself, and then you won't do it. And the whole point in tone and messaging is that you start to be consistent, that you have a consistent voice that's reaching out into the world. The cool thing is, this should happen naturally, right? If you really are interacting with your audience, if the movies that you're making are not smiley exclamation pointy movies, you're probably not making them for smiley exclamation pointy people, so you probably won't have to be smiley and exclamation pointy online. We have been trained that we're supposed to make things look like other things that are successful. I can't tell you how many scripts we read and how many videos we see that are, filmmakers who, God bless them, have been taught for years to, you read these independent, how to break into independent film, and they tell you, research the market and see what's working and make something that fits into this marketable niche. That's pandering to an audience. What we're talking about is building an authentic, engaging relationship with your audience so that you get empowered to make the stuff that's really authentic to you and authentic to them. That's the unique opportunity that crowdfunding provides us. So thanks for watching. We covered messaging and message testing, how to start to use social media as a tool, and in the next chapter, we're gonna look at really getting into your crowdfunding campaign. I know, finally. How much money to raise, incentives, and pitch videos. Stay tuned.